Hi, welcome to today's lesson. Our learning target today is I can divide whole numbers by unit fractions and unit fractions by whole numbers. Today, we review. So let's begin at the beginning. The first thing we learned was to solve a problem like 3 divided by 1/2 using bar models. We learned that for each of the 1 whole bars, we can divide it by the number of pieces as indicated by the denominator of our divisor, right? So if we're going to divide something in half, we're going to find 2 pieces in each. We did so by cutting each bar in half, and then we counted up all the pieces in all 3 holes. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. 3 divided by 1/2 is 6. In other words, there are 6 halves in 3 holes. So we found the pattern that for each hole, there'll be the number of pieces that is the denominator of the divisor. And then we use that pattern to come up with a procedure, a set of steps that helps us to solve the same problem, 3 divided by 1/2, without drawings. And what we learned was that if we take the dividend and multiply it by the reciprocal of the divisor, we'll come up with a quotient. And so the way that looks is rewriting the dividend 3, turning the division sign to multiplication, and then using the reciprocal of our divisor. 1/2, the reciprocal is 2 over 1. Remember, mathematically, a reciprocal is a number you multiply by another number in order to get 1 as the product. What it really looks like in real life is that you take the numerator and denominator of your fraction or of your number and you turn it upside down. And that's what we did. 1 over 2 became 2 over 1, which is the same as 3 times 2, because 2 over 1, any number over 1, is just that number. 3 times 2 is 6, and we can see that whether we use our procedure or we use bar models, we come up with the same answer. Next, we learn to divide unit fractions by whole numbers. So here we have 1/3 divided by 5, and again we started with an area model. And in this model, the 1 square equals 1 whole. And our first step was to represent the dividend, 1/3 in this case, by cutting that whole into thirds and shading in one of them. So I'm going to do that now. Shade in 1/3, just like that. And our second step was then to cut this 1/3, break this 1/3 here into this many pieces by our divisor. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces, 5/5. We divided 1/3 of the square into 5 pieces. But in order to make sense of the answer, we know that we have to divide the other thirds as well. So let's divide the second third into 5 pieces. And let's divide this last third into 5 pieces. And now we read our answer as 1 piece out of all the pieces in the whole. That's 1 piece out of 15. We learned that if we take each third, in this case, and divide it by 5, we're making 3 groups of 5. So we use that pattern and came up with a procedure to solve a question like this without a drawing. And what did we learn to do? Yes, we learned to multiply the dividend by the reciprocal of the divisor. That's exactly the same thing we learned to do when we were dividing whole numbers by unit fractions. So here's the way it looks. 1/3 divided by 5. We start by rewriting our dividend, 1/3. We'll turn the division sign into multiplication. And then we will come up with the reciprocal of our divisor. Now, the reciprocal of 5 is 1/5. And the way we know that is because we can write this 5 over 1. Any whole number can be written over 1, and we read it as 5 ones, or 5. So if we look at it this way, we can then clearly see that if we were going to take that 5 ones and flip it upside down, we're going to get 1 over 5, or 1/5. And we've learned how to multiply two fractions, right? We have 1 times 1 is 1, and 3 times 5 is 15. And now we can see that whether we use the procedure or we use the area model, we come up with the same quotient. That's all we've learned in the last 2 weeks. It's time to practice, practice, practice. Our learning target today is I can divide whole numbers by unit fractions and unit fractions by whole numbers. And we're going to do things in every way we just reviewed. We're going to review everything we've learned. Let's get started. Please let me know if you need help.